We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships.
This is the Couples Academy Show.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani. I'm excited to have Lakeisha Hines, Jeff Witt, and Roland. Roland is on the show. Roland Bradley. We're here as Couples Academy practitioners to talk to you about life, love, and relationships. So wherever you're dialing in from around the world, let us know where you're from. We're continuing a conversation we started on yesterday called trauma bonding. And today we're going to continue that conversation. The chat was blowing up and we're going to get into the discussion. We're talking about the 7 stages of trauma bonding. And we defined what it was, what it wasn't. And now we're going to go into where you may find yourself if you find yourself in this situation. But before we get started, as we always do, quick announcements. Last Chance Weekend is coming up December the 9th through the 11th. That is next weekend. There is still time. Couples are literally signing up every single day. It's going to be a magnificent, phenomenal, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious experience that you want to be a part of. For those of you, you've heard us, share commercials and the importance of it, but I want to give a testimonial. We do privates, we do Last Chance Weekends, which are group intensives, but it's important for you to hear from those who have gone through the journey. So I want you to hear about this couple, and then we'll get started with the show right after this.
Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Mandy.
And we're from Florida. And we came to Couples Academy because we had, some issues that we were dealing with and trying to work through. And it was actually getting to the point where it wasn't too great. And coming here, we were able to work with Hassani and figure out what all the real problems were, really get to it at a deep level. Felt comfortable to do it. We never felt like it was like it's my fault or your fault. We talked about all the different things, worked through it together in an organic way, and now we have tool sets that we can utilize to communicate with one another. We know about our personality traits, which, by the way, the exam that we took with him, how do you feel about that? It
came out being spot on.
Hyper freaky, I would call it, about how spot on it was. So we learned a lot about that, about us in that regard.
I feel like it's been transformative in, I think, in personal, individual ways for both of us. And that little tiny piece of hope and promise is like
the size of a planet.
Yeah, it's exponentially stronger.
We both feel very happy about it,
and
for sure.
I actually have a background in counseling and a background as a therapist myself, and I've seen many individuals and many couples go through traditional counseling, which usually looks like once a week for X number of weeks or X number of months. And I've even seen people do twice weekly. But this intensive, the 3-day weekend and everything that comes together is, leaps and bounds beyond what I think traditional weekly counseling could ever touch. There is really no way, I can't see that there's a better program in this entire country. Like this has to be the best in the country, if not the world.
There's no doubt about it in my mind. You had this background, and you know a lot about this stuff. We've gone through individual counseling. We know it as a career. We've looked up different things. We've watched different videos. There is no doubt in my mind. Prior to coming here, that's one reason we called Hassani, is we thought right off the bat that this was probably the best in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And now we came here, I think it's easy to say it's probably the best in the planet. You know, I think it's phenomenal. Nothing short of brilliant. Check your gut, talk to your spouse, make the plans, get on a plane, drive up here, whatever the case may be, and do it.
And there it is, folks. See, this is the place where counselors and therapists and coaches come to save and restore their marriages. So if you ever wanted to know who to go straight to the source. You know, I also got a text. I just wanted to read. I haven't shared this with all of you yet, but it says, thanks. I also want to say thanks. I want to say meeting you and the crew has not only transformed our marriage, but has also transformed my life. I'm so grateful out of the mistakes in my own marriage that God allowed me to cross paths with you and your team. You are the best in the business for fixing marriages. Thanks a lot, Hassani and the Couples Academy crew. So once again, the accolades continue to come, and I'm not saying this to boast or to brag, but to let you know that you have to be sure where you're going. There's so many people who are seeking the right advice from the wrong people, who are not qualified, who are not skilled, who haven't gone through anything. And then they have such a negative idea of what counseling is all about and give up on the process. But when you go to the right ones, it can make a tremendous impact on your life and on your marriage. So hopefully that helped you. But let's dive into today's topic. We're talking about the 7 stages of trauma bonding. We have 4 phenomenal experts here who are going to weigh in. So let's just get to the first one, guys. The first stage of trauma bonding, okay, is love bombing. Love bombing. So the question is, what is love bombing? Love bombing is when a person overwhelms you with a great display of affection. Maybe they're sending you flowers every single day or extravagant gifts. Early in the relationship, they're quick to say that they love you. They're overwhelming you, soaking and saturating you with so much love and affection that you are won over. And so it's interesting, not that this is always the case, but narcissists and sociopaths often have engaged in this type of behavior as a way to win trust in their partner / victim, or whatever it is that you want to call it. But this is one of the things. And so a lot of times we're swept off of our feet. We're wooed by the expressions of other people, but we have to slow down and see where this is going before we get too caught up. So that's the first level. Let's go to the second, because I really want to dive into this one, because it transitions, the love bombing transitions into this one, and that's gaining trust.
Yeah, so trauma bonding feels like you've broken me into pieces, but you're the only one that can fix me. And so it's very similar to Stockholm syndrome, even where people who have been held captive, they develop feelings of trust and affection toward the person who is actually abusing them, or who is their captor. And so what happens is they're using all of these strategies, they're using all of these things to get you to actually trust them. That's the most important part, I think, after love bombing. And the love bombing is there, as you said, to gain that trust and that dependency on them, so they feel as if they cannot survive ultimately without that person. And then when you confront them about it, they have a tendency to get upset, get really, really upset, and then start to make you feel guilty. Like, after everything I've done for you, that love bombing, right? After everything I've done for you, you still don't trust me. You don't believe that I'm trustworthy. And we know that in a healthy relationship, doubting is expected. You're supposed to doubt because you're trying to get to know a person. And so that takes time. So just because you flooded me with all of these things doesn't automatically mean that you're a trustworthy person and that I need to be trusting you. That takes time, and it's supposed to be earned, right?
Powerful, powerful point. All right. So that's the second stage of trauma bonding. Let's go to the third. The third one is criticism.
Criticism. The abuser criticizes the person so much that the person feels as though it's their fault, like they deserve the criticism. And we're not talking about constructive criticism. We're talking about the criticizing of tearing down one's self-esteem, tearing their spirit down. And they get to the point where they realize, like, oh, this must be my fault. I must deserve how you're speaking to me. You've given me gifts. You've gained my trust. And now I'm taking everything that you say as face value. And what you're saying must really be true. And then we find ourselves in this state of trauma bonding because the person has to really love me if they're saying the things that they're saying. And then you fall into the trap of believing what they're saying to the point that you feel like it's your fault, to the point that you feel like the way you move really must be the very thing that they're saying, when that is totally opposite of what is actually going on. You are stuck in a place of danger and you don't even realize it, but it can be so subtle because you don't realize it on top of the gifts, on top of all of the words that have been said to gain the trust. And you don't even realize that the criticism that's being told to you is actually affecting you. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's over a period of time. It's little by little until it all blows up. And then you realize that you don't even know who you are yourself because the criticism that you have accepted, you think that's what it really is.
You know, LaShawn Jackson says, wow, amazing. It's like everything that you all are saying, I've been through. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. Maybe they haven't had a term to attach to it, but now they are getting an understanding of what's happening in their relationship. And just as they may not have known, it's quite possible that the one who is actually doing the harm isn't aware of what they're doing. We kind of spoke about that yesterday because, you know, hurt people. People repeat patterns that they have that come from their family dynamic. And so that's all they know. And they don't realize that their behavior is toxic. But there are those who absolutely do know what they're doing. And so it's about being aware. And once you're self-aware, you can then begin to do something about it. So that was the third stage. We're just getting started, guys. Let's go to the fourth stage. The fourth stage is manipulation.
So yeah, manipulating the victim is a big thing. I have to honestly say, back in the day, I was the king of this. I did not know that this is what I was doing. I did it more as a defensive technique from being scrutinized. But it's, you know, when you're telling them that what they're seeing is wrong, is over exaggerated, you're gaslighting them. You're trying to tell them, hey, listen, like you think too much about this. It's not a big deal. Why are you trying to make this such a big deal? You know, I did that when I was saying having females as friends. Or oh, she's just my homegirl from work, or knowing that there was a possibility of something more, knowing that there was something in my mind that was attracted to that person, I would gaslight my wife and tell her that she was over exaggerating. And I did that as a defense mechanism to cover up what I was doing because I thought I could walk that line and be okay and not cross it. And that's a danger zone. So whenever you see if something in your gut tells you something is wrong, you have to listen to that and explore that. That doesn't mean you're being over paranoid. You need clarification. And especially when it's things like that, you know what I mean? So like manipulation is probably one of the key things that I see, and one of the key things I used to do as a man to try to control my relationships.
Wow. And, you know, the whole manipulation piece, I think that it doesn't have to be attached to trauma bonding. There are some people who are just manipulators to try to get control in a relationship. I mean, we've heard men complain about how women are so manipulative. They try to get whatever they want by so many means. And we've heard women complain about the same thing. So while there may be signs in these stages that you're experiencing, is not necessarily an indication that you're a victim of trauma bonding. But if many of these signs are appearing in your relationship, it certainly could be. And so we want you to be mindful as you're listening to these stages to see if this is relevant to your situation. Anyway, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We're going to go to a quick break. Stay right there. We're going to go into the other two stages and then give you a whole lot more. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, Share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
Welcome back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about the 7 stages of trauma bonding. We're going to go right to the next stage because we want to hit these. The next one is what we call resignation. Resignation. This is when the victim gets to the point where they just can't take it anymore and they just resign. They go along with the abuser's behavior. This is what we would call people pleasing, right? They've just acquiesced to what is taking place. And really, it's a coping mechanism for survival. And this is the problem. Oftentimes, the spouse, the partner, the victim feels trapped and feels as if there's no way out. And so the best thing to do is to, rather than fight what's happening, go along with what's happening so that the damage won't be as bad. That's a traumatic experience to be in when you're in what you thought was a loving relationship. And so that's number 6. Let's go to, I'm sorry, was that number 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Let's go to number 7. Number 7 is distress.
Yeah, that resignation is powerful because it's also a form of giving up, right? And it can literally be that they become so dependent that they, rather than deal with further conflict, let's just go ahead and get married. Let's just have kids. Let's just become more emotionally and financially dependent on this person because I'm tired, I'm exhausted, right? And that often happens because of the distress, because they are experiencing psychological distress, and it's a loss of self, really. And it's a progressive thing where they get to just a point of tremendous pain and they're disconnected from the world. So even if they do gather up the strength to leave, oftentimes their new world, they don't even know how to exist in that because they've lost their identity. And that stress, that loss of self, it can be isolating where they lose their social connections, their self-identity has changed. It doesn't match what people are accustomed to. And this loss of confidence that they have literally can lead them to suicidal ideation. And this emotional torture, shame, and guilt, again, it happens over years, which makes it really, really difficult for them to face it and to deal with it. But it actually does happen where they even can get emotionally numb, right? Just losing who they are and withdrawing from people and activities that they used to do.
I want to say this real quick. A lot of men choose resignation. I've watched this over and over and over again. And it's not always a sign directly of trauma bonding, but the trauma may not have come from their partner. It may have just come from the way life has beaten them up.
Or their childhood, Jeff.
Yes, or their childhood has beaten them up with the fact that their goals, their dreams, their ambitions are gone. And so they've resigned themselves from life and just kind of accepted what is. I see this probably more than anything else, and it creates really, 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 really weak men. And when I meet a man who does not know his purpose, I already know he's already resigned. You know, there's a saying in that said that a man lives between until he's about 25 to 33, lives up to 25 to 33 years old, and then he dies. He's just waiting to die pretty much after that. He's died in every other way. And this is what we fight with in Foundry all the time. And it's something that it actually disgusts me that we allow this to happen to our men in society.
You know, it's so interesting. I have a person in my life who went through a very traumatic upbringing where he was convicted of a crime and sentenced to 100 years in prison. He got out, didn't have to serve that amount of time. But he said the reason why I wound up here is because I quit band in school, and then I quit my math class, and then I quit my sport, and then I quit. So he started explaining all the things that he gave up on, all the things that he quit throughout the course of his life. He said most of us here in prison are quitters. We've given up on life. And we've chosen paths that we knew would not serve us. And this is why we are where we are. And so it was finally while I was in prison that I made a decision that I was no longer going to quit. I was going to change my life. And as a result of that, he got out and lives a life that people could only dream of. And so to your point, Jeff, I think it is a phenomenon that exists in a lot of men because there's so much weight upon us as men, so much responsibility. And in fact, we talked about this in times past. It's a phenomenal book called The Myth of Male Power. And it talks about when boys reach the age of adolescence, the suicide rate skyrockets 14,000% higher for boys than it does for girls because of the expectations of what boys or males are going to have to deal with in society. So even if they're successful in their career, they're successful in the military, they're successful in the world, if they begin to experience failure in their relationship, that's the hardest fight that they've ever had to fight. And they don't know how to deal with that because emotionally they don't know how to adjust, how to connect. And so they quit and they resign within the realms of their marriages. So it's a serious issue that we really need to dig deeper into. But a question came from Cali Power Couple in relation to what someone else said. He says, as the once unfaithful, could it be that sometimes the unfaithful is giving constructive criticism and it's taken as hurtful criticism?
As one military man to another, most of our criticism comes out as hurtful criticism because we grew up in a structure of accepted abuse. And so I know you're a military guy because you brought it up a few times, and you went through some of the hardest things in the world that a person could go through as a SEAL. So your version of criticism and my version of criticism is very, very hurtful to normal people because they're not the same iron that we're built from.
So there's a hardness that you have. It's so funny because one of my previous clients, I remember the wife saying, you talk to me like I'm a man in the street. Like you're so hard. And he was. Like he didn't care. And he was a military man. And when you're when you're spat at and yelled at and cursed at and told that you're nothing, then, to get your life together, you take that, as we say, hurt people. The way that you're trained and enculturated, you bring that into other areas of your life. And so it's so interesting when I deal with military couples, oftentimes that's one of the issues that typically comes up. Powerful point.
Real quick.
Yes.
There was that statement that you sent me this morning that's blow. I would prefer men to be warriors first. But you want to be the warrior who's learning how to garden. Learning how to have that delicate touch.
Yeah, there's a gentleness, right? A warrior knows how to control one's strength and knows when to lash out and knows when to be the lion and when to be the lamb. And I think that's important in a relationship. We have a lot of comments. Tiffany says, my husband has resigned from just me. He seems to be connected to everyone else, but not me. It makes me feel like I'm always doing something wrong. It's exhausting. Lakeisha, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Tiffany, it's tough when one person in the marriage gives up. Like that's really, really difficult because you're still fighting, you're still pushing, but they're not doing the same. It makes you feel as if they don't care anymore, they don't love you, and it's hard to keep going. So the reality is this: have you sat down, had a conversation with your husband to explain to him that you would like to reconnect? Because really that's what you're asking for. You want him to connect back with you. Don't compare yourself to how he's connecting to other people because those are different relationships, right? And the marital bond is extremely different from any other relationship that you're going to have. So don't compare your relationship and how you guys are interacting with each other to how he's interacting with others, but be clear, concise, and direct about how you would like him to show up for you. And when you say he makes you feel like you're always doing something wrong, is he specific about what his expectations are? That is one of the biggest things that I find with couples, is that they are not clear about their expectations, and we can't hold people accountable for things that they never knew were expectations.
Facts. Ash H says, I feel like I trauma bonded with my husband after the emotional affair came out by excusing his actions due to his childhood trauma. 1 year later, and I just found out he is still contacting escorts, so over caring for his needs more than my own. Wow. There's a lot here. Then LaShawn says, thank you all for your support. My journey has been rough since separating from my husband. I've started speaking life into myself and loving myself more. So the comments are coming in. People are resonating with this. I know, Roland, there's a lot going on in that mind of yours, that brilliant brain of yours, as it relates to what we're talking about with this conversation of trauma bonding. What have you to say?
As men, we found so many men to be so broken, but we have to get to that place that we have to lead our wives like lions and love them like lambs. We have to lead like a lion and love like a lamb, right? And when we get to that point of understanding our role and our place, it goes back to that self-searching of ourselves as men, so that we understand who we are, so that way we can perform and do the diligent work of being able to protect and provide for our families. Because protection and providing is more than just putting food on the table and a roof over their heads. It's protecting their feelings, their spirits, their souls, how we speak to them, how we handle them. And it's not just our wives. Our children are looking at how we move. Our children are looking at how we talk to one another. And when we get to the point of just letting go, resigning, and doing everything opposite of how we should move as men and women in our families, that's where the breakdown comes in. And that's why they have so many families struggling right now, because everybody's out of place. Social media has done a major work on the psyche of so many people, because we're looking at things that are not really real, but you're living real life. And so you're trying to compare the two, which are uncomparable, because everything is a facade that we see on the outside, but what you're living is a real thing. And we have to be able to address those real issues in real ways by having hard conversations and acknowledging them as being hard conversations.
Yes. Now, on yesterday, we were talking about the signs and symptoms of trauma bonding, and I want to circle back over to that before we end the show. But, one of the signs of trauma bonding is when the abused victim thinks that their abuse is their fault, right? So even though it's being it comes upon them from their partner, they take ownership of why it's happening in the first place. So that level of self-blame, that speaks to a psychological mindset that somebody gets caught up in when this abuse is taking place. So not only am I going to attack you, you're the reason why I'm attacking you, and you believe it. Right, that's a sign of abuse right there. There's a few other signs. The abuser promises that they'll change so that their abuser will never do it again. Right. So rather than me focusing on how you need to change your ways, I'll change so I'm no longer abused by you. So if you find yourself in these type of situations, this is why you need to come to Couples Academy to get the help that you need, because we can help really unpack these issues and turn these things around for you. I want to go to another quick video before we end this show. There's another couple that came and did a private marriage intensive with us. They're just an amazing couple. It was an amazing experience to be with them. And hearing people's stories, as they say, facts tell, but stories sell. And hearing their story gives hope to those who are going through as well. Check this out.
Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Andy.
Gil Zake from San Diego, California.
And I'm Lucy Zake from San Diego also. We are married. Well, our relationship was non-existing. It was at the front door of a divorce. And we were not communicating. We were not touching. We were not kissing. There was really nothing but the conversations we had were about business, were about everyday life, and it was very shallow. And we experienced an affair. My husband had an affair with a lady, and I found out about that, and my whole world caved in, and we had 3 days of intensive work here with Hassani, and it was just life-saving. It was heart and brain opening. It was receiving each other again and understanding each other. We started communicating from scratch, and 3 days later, it's just a total brilliance. We never expected that. I knew there could be maybe a chance, but that's minimizing everything. It was just the most wonderful experience we had. It was absolutely fabulous, and we're starting over. We're going to be just fine. So thanks to Hassani, there's not been anything better that I have come across than this couples retreat.
I'm Gil, and Lucy's husband. I had a 3-year affair. I am extremely sorry. And we came to the couples retreat here looking for healing and restoration of our marriage. And I had no idea that things after 3 days of intensive work and training, that things could turn out as beautiful as they have. My wife wrote me a letter. She has never apologized to me in 20 years.
For anything.
And it was just a super breakthrough for me, the innocent party, but yet during our marriage, we had issues. And I was just so happy and so excited about the future with Lucy. And to hear that letter of her apologizing for things that she has done that helped contribute to, the affair that I had. And it's just been wonderful. I didn't think that anything like this existed or could even exist. Hassani is very experienced. He's had a lot of, many years of dealing with specializing in affairs. And that is something that you just do not find. And I'm so grateful to him, and thank God that we were able to find him.
Connect with him. And I call him the marriage whisperer. Yes, definitely Hassani is. He's a miracle to us.
And every cent that we've spent coming here was beyond worth it. We are going to follow up with other sessions twice a month for 1 hour at a time. He is always available to meet your needs, and he has a passion for helping couples that have had affairs. Thank you, Hassani.
He's thanking me, but he's also thanking the Couples Academy practitioners who do this work. We do private intensives all over this country. So listen, you need to call today to get your marriage in order. 2023 is a month away. Today is December 1st. Don't go into the new year, January 1st, in a broken, miserable state. You can turn things around. You can come to the Last Chance Weekend. You could do a private marriage intensive. Sign up today, because your marriage is in a state of desperation and needs to be healed and fixed. Listen, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We appreciate you for all that you do to tune in on a regular basis. Tomorrow is Ask the Experts. So it's all about you. So whatever questions you have, send them in so that we can answer them. And so until then, we love you guys, and we'll see you in the morning. Take care.